Welcome! In this video tutorial, we're going to take a look at how to use Solver in Excel. Solver is an excellent tool which will find the best possible solution using the data you're working with. You simply need to specify conditions that must be met, and the whole solution finding job is done by Excel instead of you. Isn't that amazing? Let's get started then. Hello and welcome to EasyClick Academy. My name's Frank, and together with our EasyClick team, we're here to make sure you'll be able to use Excel in a quick and easy way thanks to our digestible video tutorials. Today, we'll work with this simple data table to demonstrate how to use Solver in Excel. The data table includes 3 products marked A, B, and C. Column C contains the information on selling price per unit. Column D stores the figures for cost per unit, and the number of units sold is in column E. Total cost figures are in column F, and we can see total profit in column G. Now, here comes the question we need to find an answer to. What maximum profit can we achieve in the next quarter if these conditions are to be met? There's a minimum quota for the units sold for each product, but we've got a limited budget at the same time. Let's say we must not exceed a certain sum when it comes to total cost. For example, currently there's the amount of $35,500 stated in this field. So, let's have a look at what solution Excel comes up with using Solver for this task. First, we need to open Solver, so we click on the Data tab, go to the Group Analyze and find the button Solver. If you can't see the button in the Data tab, you need to go to File first, then Options, then click on Add-ins. Now you click on Go at the bottom of the window, tick the box Solver Add-in and confirm with OK. Once we've got the button Solver in the Data tab, we click on it and another window opens that says Solver Parameters. Here we can set everything up as needed. The field Set Objective should contain the information about the cell we want to optimize. In our case, it's the cell G6 for total profit, because we want to maximize the profit. So we select the cell. Below, we can specify what's the aim of the calculation, or in other words, what we're supposed to get. We go for max if we want to calculate the maximum possible value, which means the maximum profit here in our case. The option min stands for the opposite. We select this option if we want to find out the minimum possible value. This comes handy if, for example, we want to minimize costs. The third option, value of, is great if we want Solver to work with a specific value. For instance, if we wanted the profit to come up to exactly $50,000, we could enter this figure in this field. Since we want to maximize the profit, we select Max. The section by changing variable cells identifies exactly which cells Solver should change. Here we enter the range E3 to E5, which contains the information on the units sold for each product. Now, here's a bit of good advice. Solver can change only cells containing values, not formulas, so make sure you keep this in mind to make things work. But let's carry on now. There's a section called Subject to the Constraints, which is meant for the specific conditions which must be met during the calculation. So, let's define them together now. First, we click on Add. A little window pops up where we can set the parameters for each condition. We don't want to exceed the total cost of $35,500. So, we click into Cell Reference and enter the cell that stores total cost. It's the cell F6 in this data table, so we simply click on it. Then we specify the condition. We can choose from multiple options: less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. But there are also more complicated conditions, like int for integers, which are just whole numbers including their negative counterparts, or bin if the result can only be binary and so as usual represented by 0 or 1, or even diff if the defined range stores values that differ from each other. The last three options are normally used in more complicated calculations. In our example, we simply don't want to exceed the total cost, so we go for less than or equal to. And here in this field, we identify the sum we don't want to exceed, which in our case is $35,500. As soon as everything's been set up, we simply click on OK, and that's the first condition added. Let's add some more conditions now. Let's say we've got a minimum quota on the units sold for each product. We click on Add again, and for product A, we set up the bottom limit to 200 units sold. In the field Cell Reference, we enter the cell E3. Then we choose greater than or equal to and type 200 in the last field. We click on OK again, and another condition's been set. The same way we can set up the minimum quota of the units sold for the other two products. We need to sell at least 400 units of product B, and we use the button Add directly in this window to set the bottom limit of the units sold for product C to 800. This way we've identified all the conditions that must be met when it comes to the solution Excel's supposed to provide. And let's move on, as we've still got a bit to cover. Keep the box Make Unconstrained Variables Non-Negative ticked. This way Solver won't come up with a negative number for the sales volume. In the field Select a Solving Method, we go for GRG Nonlinear, which is a default and universal method suitable for most cases. There are other options available. For example, Simplex LP, used for finding an optimal solution for problems with linear relationships. In practice, it could be used for production and distribution. Or Evolutionary, which is a method used for more complex and non-standard tasks. If you'd like to learn more about these more advanced methods, make sure to drop us a comment in the comments section below, and we'll make sure you'll get your answers in a separate video tutorial. For now, we keep GRG Nonlinear, and we can move on. If we click here on Options, another window with more complex technical details opens regarding precision, limits, iterations, and others. Normally, we don't need to change anything here, but if you'd like to know more about these advanced settings, let us know, and we can come up with a more detailed tutorial for this section as well. Anyway, let's get back to our example. These are our current settings. We want to maximize the profit in cell G6. There are variable cells E3 to E5 which contain the numbers for units sold. And we've identified 4 conditions including the budget limit and the minimum quotas for the sales volume. We click on Solve and check the solution Excel's come up with. We can now choose from 2 options. Keep Solver Solution. Excel will keep the solution found through Solver, or Restore Original Values. We'll return to the original data. It's good practice to create a backup or a copy of the original spreadsheet at the very beginning, before the calculation, to make sure the original data are available anytime. We can also use the button Save Scenario if we want to save this specific calculation and get back to it later. We can have a look at how to access saved scenarios and how to work with them further in a separate follow-up video tutorial. But now, we'll stick to the basics. Let's press OK, and that's it. We can look through the results. Total costs been kept, but the numbers for units sold have changed to achieve the maximum profit, while all the conditions we set have been met. Solver is a great tool which will find the best possible solution for you. You just have to specify correctly what you want to achieve and under what conditions. However, If you need to calculate one specific value with one variable, you can use a simpler tool in Excel called GoalSeek, which is something like Solver's little brother. The link to the video on how to use GoalSeek in Excel is in the description below. Now, there's one thing to watch out for. It can easily happen that Solver won't find a solution. In that case, make sure you check the defined conditions, specifically whether some of them are not contradictory or whether they're real. For example, there can't be negative sales volume. And keep in mind what we've already mentioned. If the calculation is more complex, make sure to have a copy of the original spreadsheet saved and accessible if needed. If you found this tutorial helpful, give us a like and watch another video tutorial by EasyClick Academy. Learn how to use Excel in a quick and easy way. Is this your first time on EasyClick? We'll be more than happy to welcome you in our online community. Hit that subscribe button and join the EasyClickers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.